And yes, we are live. Thank you so much for joining me today. Are you ready? Are you guys really ready for today? Are you sure you're ready? Let me sip a cup of tea. Mm, okay. Yes, this is post 40 years behavior. If you're not up to 40, let me see your hand in the comment section. Now we're posting as far. We're now 40. Thank you again to every single yada for all of your messages. It's been heartwarming. Who missed me? Who missed me being here? I missed myself. If you didn't miss me, I missed myself. I miss myself being here. I miss you guys. I miss being here. It's been an awesome ride. To all of the cohort, to all of the state leads, I say thank you again and again and again. It's been an awesome time. And honestly, I felt, so much different kind of emotion. By the way, I hear that, somebody was still saying, coach, you're not done with the bed. I thought it was a joke. And on Wednesday, there was still another surprise. Thank you so much again, everybody. And thank you for all your prayers, your gifts, and all the noise. We indeed made noise on the 10th of March. I love it. All right. So let us officially now tell you that your coach is now 40. I'm sure some people are thinking, why is she making so much noise? She's just 40. It's not just to some of us are right 40, like diabolical, that kind of thing. All right. So today we're speaking of who am I parenting? This class is an interesting class. Is that class that you will actually be very grateful to have heard. And if you get to the end of this class, I don't want you to, put up any kind of regret, especially for those of us who are raising, adult children, to say, oh, I wish I knew these things. Let's not wish. Let's start where we are. Thank you so much for joining me today. And let me say this, thing about having to understand who we're raising. So yesterday, I made an opinion post on a trending issue. I usually would not, but I thought my community will need to learn things differently. So a young girl, if you're not in Nigeria or you're not Nigerian, who is in the NYSC, had come up with the insults on the president, come up with, oh, we're suffering and all of that. Is she right to air have you? Oh, absolutely yes. But you know what I found? In the confines of the law to being a copper, she's wrong. Now, why am I sharing this? I'm sharing this because most times we actually do not know what is required to make a thing to actually succeed. So you have a child, you don't know who the child is. You think that you will just raise the child anyhow and you will actually arrive in the place. No, you can't. And that's what we do. So we get into a system, we don't read the rules, we don't read the situation, we don't read the manuals, we don't read anything. And then, we say things like, oh, the parenting does not have a manual. The same attitude we have to parenting, not having a manual, is the same attitude we have to every other thing. So we think that we can just get into anywhere and do things anyhow. Little wonder we're still where we are as a nation. I've often said, you don't win by fighting physically. You win by being strategic. And the more unstrategic we are, the truth of the matter is that the more we are not able to win. How does this relate to this class? Because we are a people who do not want to seek to know how to make a thing or how to use a thing for its effectivity, we often miss it. We often miss it. If you buy a drug and you do not read the prescriptions and do not read the manual and all of that, that drug that is supposed to cure you can kill you. The same thing, that when the Bible says, I have given you the key of life and death. Do you know that the key of life and death is the same key? The same key. The same key. So if we have same thing that can kill you can actually heal you. So the same thing that we do with our children. Today, we are asking the question, who am I parenting? We want to win the war of parenting by fighting physically. And I'm here to tell you today that you are going to only win by strategically understanding and reading the manual of that thing that have been given to you. If you don't read a manual, if you don't read a manual of a thing, that thing that is supposed to help you can end up killing you. A child you do not understand can become a disadvantage to you instead of being an advantage. And because you're Yadas. So it means that I can actually tell you the way it is. So please, don't join the foolish mobs. You're not raised like that. You're not a Yada for you to just, be out there, just say things because it's popular. Somebody said under the post, so I'm really disappointed in you. I said, I don't make posts for you to be appointed. It's okay if you're disappointed. I didn't get here by keeping quiet or by applauding the things. I'm not a crowd follower. We must be able to think these processes that we are actually in. Is this the way to get where it is that we're supposed to get to? That's one thing that we must see. For everything we're about to do, ask yourself, do I know the rule of engagement before I use it? You must read the manual to operate on equipment. And it starts with small things. Being able to read the pamphlet in a toy, being able to read the pamphlet in a drug, being able to read the pamphlet. How many of us really read the instructions that are given in the equipment that we are actually using? A child has a manual. Do you know the manual of that child? That's what this conversation today is about. That's what this conversation today is about. You can either be an advantage to your child or you become a disadvantage. How do you become a disadvantage? You only become a disadvantage by actually not understanding the manual to which you've been given to raise that thing. You're welcome. And then shout out to the governor. You guys should shout out to the governor. The governor has done birthday with me in the past 1 month. All right. Thank you so much, sir, for being here. Now, today I'm going to call up my slide because today is our flagship webinar. You know how we do it. Every one of our flagship webinars has a slide on it, and we're going to be talking about this today. Get ready because we're about to do a roasting system through and through. And please forgive me in advance because we shall hold no prisoner. Who am I parenting? Who am I parenting? How do you help someone you don't know his or her challenges? How do you love someone you don't know? How can you provide direction for someone you don't know where they are going? It's very easy for you to actually, wake up and just say things like, oh, train up a child in the way he should go. When he grows up, how do you train someone you know nothing about? Unfortunately, that's where we are. We are in the place where we actually want to raise people we do not know. Because as usual, we think we can engage without the rules of engagement. You think you can engage without the rules of engagement. There are rules of engagement in the life of every child that is sent to you. The messiahness of every child is actually from you. Do you know? People say, oh, there's a blank slate. God didn't give you a blank slate. He gave you a blueprint. God did not give you a blank slate. He gave you a blueprint. Study your child's design before you try to rewrite it. Most of us, all we do is to try to rewrite the design of our children instead of studying the design. Do you know that there was a Paul and there was a Peter? Both of them were designed differently to actually be, a product that will help the church in different ways. Food for thought. The potential of a child is released through parenting. The potential of any child is at the mercy of your parenting skills and the knowledge base of the parents. What you know will either make your child or it will kill your child. The choice is yours. Many times I ask this question. If Mark Zuckerberg was trained by you, would he still be the tech giant that he is today? I leave you to answer it. I don't need you to answer it anywhere. Let your conscience deal with it. If you were to raise a Chimamanda, will it still be a Chimamanda? If you were to raise, the question will be, it's not just to, put up the environment a child grows in. The person the child is raised by is a big deal. If Mark Zuckerberg was raised by your parents, would they have been Mark Zuckerberg? Now that shows you that it's possible that your potential, that there's something lagging in your potential. Because who raised you is actually a key aspect, a key aspect of your life. See, the worst mistake you can make as a parent, is raising a child for the world you grew up in instead of the world they are growing into, and instead of the world of their own. Parenting is not about fixing any child. It's about discovering who they are. It's about helping them become the best version of themselves. You see, discipline is not about breaking a child's will. It's about shaping it without crushing their spirit. Most of us have crushed the spirit of the person you are raising in the name of, I need to tame the child. Is a child an animal? Why are you taming a human being? Before you demand obedience, ask yourself, does my child trust me enough to even follow me? Parenting is not a one-size-fits manual. Parenting, like we say in the yard. Your child is not children. Your child is your child. Unique, gifted, wired for something specific, not for everything. So today, we're going to be talking about the different kind of child and the different kind of wiring. Remember, God didn't give you a blank slate. He gave you a blueprint. A child is not a blank state. There is no state. Human beings don't come blank. They come with a blueprint. It's your job to study that child's design before you try to rewrite it. Let's talk about the parenting advantage. The parenting advantage. I have a book called The Parenting Advantage, an amazing book. Parenting is not about fixing a child. It's about discovering who they are. It's about helping them become the best version of themselves. I said it before, that the potential of any child is at the mercy of parenting skills and knowledge based on parenting. I was listening to my pastor recently, and he said something very striking. He said one of the hindrances of life, and he was naming them sicknesses. He named another one, not knowing God. He named another one, and he said parenting. Parenting is a hindrance of potential. Parenting is, that's why when a child has too much potential that they, God, look at it and just say, this child needs to be, get out of. Sometimes God has some sort of blueprint that gets you eliminated. Because while you are there, you make a mess of what it is that he has planned. In cases where he's not, bad, he just leaves it. Just leaves it. Most of us would have become people different. It's just that we didn't know that there was a blueprint that came with them. So to effectively parent your child, you must first understand who they are, their sickness, their strength, their weaknesses, their struggles, their unique, personality traits. Parenting without really knowing your child is like giving direction without knowing the destination. Love, guidance, support must be personalized. And that's why when people tell me, my parents raised us, we are 10 children, go and check it very well. So most times in most, populated system in the family, children suffer. Not necessarily because you're many, but because even if you were one, the parents didn't even know what it is that they were going to do. That's the truth. The parents do not even know what they're supposed to do. Unfortunately, we're repeating a cycle. We're trying to impute what God didn't impute in our children's life. Because according to you, they are blank. I need to just, give them. There's a blueprint too. There is a blueprint on the life of every person. Now, let's take a look at these different categories of children. Number one is the hardwired child. We call them the sensitive child, the emotional child. We call them, the heart-centered child. And I'm going to use Bible characters to break down these different kinds of children to help you to actually really understand who you are parenting. This child, a typical example in the Bible, will be all right. But let's even move on to their core characters. They deeply feel emotions. They are highly empathetic. They are easily affected by words or actions. Now, this set of children, they are also known as the empath, the feeling-driven one, the gentle soul. They are this kind of children. All right. This ANA is also named as. All right. Their core traits is deeply feels emotions, intuitive, compassionate. When you read about Joseph, right, you find out that he was deeply, emotional, hurt, yet he was empathic and forgiving. He had vivid dreams. He had that long for connection and all of that. But they have challenges. One of the things about understanding who you're parenting is that you are able to understand their weaknesses so that you can train from strength to weakness. Nobody ever succeeds being hit on their weaknesses. No child transforms when you're hitting their weakness and saying it is from their weakness you get to their strength. So you say things like, why are you even always crying? Why? That's the child's weakness. The child is an empath. It means that the child gets easily overwhelmed with emotions, take things personally, needs reassurance. That's a challenge. But what do? You come from the place of strength, not from the place of weakness. When you hit the weakness of anyone, you weaken them. Imagine that every day when I come to Inner Circle, I tell you guys are not learning. Just see all the nonsense, everything, all the suffering I'm suffering. You people are not reading. You are not learning. You are not. Every time you are just doing this. Imagine that it's only your weakness that is being highlighted. Every day I come up and I say, start where you are. Yes, this is your weakness. It's okay. Look at the strength that you have. Start coming from there. But what do we do in our homes? We go back to our children and we continually hit on their weakness. You continually hit on their weakness. You leave the strength. The strength is that this child is very loving. You leave the strength that this child is kind-hearted. And then you come from the place of everything. You're just you are complaining. You continue to complain. Do you really think that people do not have complaints of where it is that you are? What if you are able to just look at the strength of that child and begin to build that child from that place? Instead of constantly, hitting on them. What are the possible careers for these people? This set of children, because of the way they are, right? You find out that the possible career is they will easily be a counselor, a therapist. Now, let me say this. No child will have just one trait only. You're probably going to actually be, more. There will be more of it, more than other traits. So their empathy allows them to help other people heal. Doctors, they are deeply, feel for others. Artists, they express their emotions beautifully. Social workers, they are the people who like to fight for justice, advocate for the vulnerable. Ministers, pastors, they like to bring comfort and spiritual guide. This is just a guide. It's just to, be able to look at, that kind of personality. Now, your child bursts into tears because a friend ignored them at school. They feel everything deeply. All they need is reassurance. All they need is reassurance. So instead of dismissing their feeling as well, it's not a big deal. Help them process it. Help them process it. That must really, hurt. What do you think will make you feel better? So Joseph wasn't too emotional. His sensitivity saved the nation. See, sensitivity is not weakness, it's a gift. Joseph's emotions didn't break him, it positioned him to save nations. Sensitivity is a gift. How do you parent this set of children? These are the set of children that you will need to be very careful with their sensitivity. You actually want to validate their emotions. You want to actually build their emotions. So the conversation is not, my child is an empath. That's how he is. That's how he is. That's not the conversation. The conversation is, this child is naturally an empath. I have more work to do because he's an empath. I have more work to do because I need to actually help my child. So a child who is more sensitive doesn't mean that, you're just going to leave the child. Why you are learning this is so that you will help the child build on the areas that they are lagging. Build on the areas. So don't finish this and say, that's how my child is. I don't need to do anything. He gets overwhelmed with emotions. So I just leave him to be like that. You will fail your child. You will fail your child. So one of the things you want to do is that you need to teach them boundaries because they absorb emotions a lot. You need to help them to manage emotional overload because they don't know how to deal with it. So if you leave them and say that's how they are, then they lose out. And that's why when we talk about, understanding your child's learning style, it's not about knowing whether your child is kinesthetic. Is that common knowledge? That's knowledge that is on the internet. Go on ChatGPT. My child, what kind of learning style? How do I know it? The test is everywhere. I'm even giving you a free guide that can tell you. It's beyond that. It's about knowing how to now craft this. Craft this so that it will help your child become. If I had left our son, we had left our son, so he's a kinesthetic learner. He doesn't know how to learn visually, auditorily. By now, he would have been struggling in every area of his life. What did we do? We started to build his auditory and visual part. That's your job. That's your job. So you need to teach them boundaries because they absorb emotions too much. Give them self-outlets. Teach them how to journal, how to tell a story. Teach them how to deal with those emotions appropriately. Now, the empaths are funny. If you don't teach an empath how to deal with emotion, it can spiral to the other end. So being an empath is not enough. Oh, my child, it can spiral to the other end. They can actually quickly become very narcissistic. Yeah, you heard me. And that's because it's uncultured. That's because it's uncultured. They can become people's pleaser. That's because it's uncultured. Remember what I said about uncultured empathy? That's what happens to this type of children. They end up with that part of their life. You need to encourage resilience. Teach them how to handle criticisms without taking it personal. This set of children hate to be criticized. And what it means is that they don't want anybody, because it will, and they actually go into self-esteem issues very easily. Remember, everything you say is a problem. Everything you say is a problem. So you need to teach them. You don't raise a child for comfort. You raise a child for purpose. Yeah, that. Did you hear that? You don't raise a child for comfort. You raise a child for purpose. If you are always making things easy, you are robbing them of their greatness. So it's not about how comfortable, knowing that the child is, that you make them comfortable. No, you know that this is who they are, and then you help them to build the other parts of their life. Let's move to the next. Number 2. Number 2 is a fire-wired child. Remember that the first one I said is the heart-wired. They are wired with their heart. Number 2 is the fire-wired child. Independent, strong-willed. And you know the interesting thing? Some of us were these different things, but we have rewired the children. We have rewired some of our children. We have rewired some of our children. Make sure that you're not on that table. So who are the fire-wired children? I call them the courageous child, the fearless trailblazer. the independent thinking children, the ones you call strong-willed, the ones you call stubborn. They don't used to hear what my child is very stubborn and I'm tired. They are the ones. Strong-willed, independent, love challenges. The ones that when you say this is a challenge, one more, let's go there. The ones that you say this is what you don't like, that's the one that they are doing. Fire wired. They have strength. They have core strength in being very confident. They are always confident. They have strength in being, and these people can be overconfident and have pride. They have what you call determination. They are determined to get anywhere. They are natural leaders. I did a study and I found out that every leader actually were fire-wired children in more of their temperament. That's who they are. Challenges. These people can be stubborn. These people dislike authority. These people push limits. Can you see where the challenge is? So you're not going to sit down and say, my child is stubborn. That's the way coach told us that they are stubborn. That's the way they are. So we just leave them like that. Oh, they don't like authority. That's how, they don't, my child, don't let knowledge to paralyze you unnecessarily. Knowledge is to help you become, not to help you explain. Stop explaining. When you gain the knowledge, your job is to say, okay, since this is how it is that my child is at this time, all right, it is important that you actually now begin to look at things and help my child. So you already know that your firewire child has problem with being stubborn, has problem with disliking authority, has problem with pushing limits. Your job is not to be explaining to everybody. One parenting class, they taught us about firewire children. Coach said that's how they are. And how, we just leave them. That's how God has, wired them. No. Understanding a blueprint is to be able to help them get wired to become spirit controlled. That's it. Firewire children. And I want you to be able to identify yourself in all of this. What are you predominantly? We all have a bit of all of this. What are you predominantly, in? How do you parent them? Give them responsibility. Give them choices. Let them be able to build self-discipline. They are the ones that don't like following rules, following authorities. Teach them that true strength includes wisdom. Wisdom. They are the children that need wisdom the most. Because they are just fire-wired. They just keep moving. Sometimes they actually do not really think it through. And they make mistakes. They make mistakes. And when they are done making mistakes, that's when they will now get to the point. You now say, hey, because they are fire-wired. They just fire-wired. Praise their courage while you guide them to respect rules. If you have a fire-wired child, the first thing you want to do is to get them to understand instructions. See, nobody arrives at their destination without instructions. Put me anywhere and I will prove it. When you have a fire-wired child that you have not groomed the right way, they will always miss road because they will firewire into the right gang. They're the ones that get into, all those kind of gang and all of that, lead cults and all of that. Why? Because there is nobody trying to actually help them. You see these ones, you teach them honor to the core. You see this crassness we have learned in our generation, thinking that, we can talk anyhow. We can actually just do anything. We can do what we want. The firewire children think they can do what they want. Unfortunately, they don't usually get it because nobody is helping them. You don't arrive at any destination without instructions. You don't. Go and look at any pilot who flies. And especially when he's at a high altitude. I was asking my nephew, who is a pilot. He's been flying for almost 6 years. And I said, so every time you fly, do you need to follow all the instructions? He said, Coach, Auntie Wendy, you don't have a choice. Whether you know what you're doing or not, you must follow instruction. Because instructions are instruments of discernment. Don't have a firewire child and they will now go everywhere like Paul, aka Paul. We call them the courageous child. Because they are courageous, they can try anything. Because they are determined. You know that these children question authority. They prefer autonomy. They prefer autonomy. You know, remember Paul? Paul was strong-willed, fiercely independent. Paul didn't have direction. That's how Paul was Saul. He was first as a persecutor. See, it's the same energy Paul used to pursue Christ. That's the same energy he used to work against Christ. That's the problem with firewired children. That same passion, they will put it in the things of God, the same way they will put it in the things of devil. It doesn't change anything. They are passionate about everything. Yet, Paul was strong-willed. Yet, because he was channeled right, he became one of the unstoppable preachers of the gospel. His leadership and determination changed the course of Christianity. You can't change the course of Christianity without you can't change systems. It's only firewired children that actually change systems. So while you are at it, don't hit your child and say, oh, you know, these children, Paul wasn't stubborn. His strong will actually built the church. Strong-willed children today, they are history makers tomorrow. The question is, will you build them or will you break them? Let me say that again. Strong-willed children are history makers tomorrow. The problem is, will you build them or will you break them? Will you break them? Saul was so convinced he was right. At Saul, he led the mission to arise Christians, believing that he was doing God's will, even when Jesus appeared to him. He didn't become passive. He redirected his fire into preaching. Now you see that the firewired child need a lot of direction. That your child that is firewired, they are the ones that need a lot of the direction. Direction. So for these children, you cannot force blind obedience on them. You need to actually tell them, this is why this rule exists. Can you share with me what your opinions are? My poor children have a part of them that is firewired. And I know. So you don't come and just say, you must do this because it's this. No. We started very early. Teaching honor, teaching instructions. Because I can't force them. They need that strong will to be able to become history makers. That's it. And then you keep offering structured choice. You have a child who is already firewired and you are fighting. You will fight for so long. You will fight for too long because they love the fight. How do you bring fight to a firewired person? Oh, they are highly determined. They are highly opinionated. They are natural leaders. You look at all the presidents. All the presidents that I know, maybe like about 90% are all firewired. The ones who do not understand how to use their fire actually make a mess on their journey as leaders. Go and watch it. Go and watch it. So, they are not afraid to question status quo. No, they are not. I have a part of me that is firewired. That's the only way to actually succeed. But at the same time, if you do not build it in wisdom, you will make errors. How do you parent these children? How do you parent these children? Give them choices. Don't force. They are the children that require structure more than you can imagine. More than you can imagine. They are the ones that you let them actually offer, let them be able to question for good. Honor is the most important thing in the life of this child because they don't have it from the beginning. Pride can get in the way for them. You need to channel their passion into understanding leadership. These children will lead anywhere, any day. They will either lead in the right way or they lead in the negative ways. So why not channel the leadership already. You channel it. You channel their leadership so that you involve them in decision making, to make them to actually take the lead, so that they understand the thing about taking the right lead and doing the right thing at the right time, and you are helping them. And the more you actually do that, the more you actually help them to be able to now nurture that thing. To now nurture it. You don't kill it, you nurture it. You don't quench the fire, you direct the fire to burn properly. What we do is that when we have fire-wire children, we kill their fire, we quench it. So you use water, pour on it, pour on it, pour on it. All the water is gone. Because most times we are a different kind of people. You're probably maybe you see a fire-wire child, you get irritated by your child questioning the things that you're doing. You get irritated because you're not like that. All of us are not going to be like you. So why do you want? And that's why you see people share things in a different way. You know, it's like, I don't like how that person. What is that? Because you do not have an understanding of what it is that human beings are made of. How do you come and you compare Peter and Paul? Why the comparison? Coach Emeka was teaching last week. He said, why are you comparing money and love? What's the comparison about? That's why you end up comparing every time. I don't like I don't like my son. My son is always everywhere. My daughter is calm. How do you compare fire and water? What's the comparison for? What's the comparison for exactly? I like how this person, this coach now does this thing. And I like how this one does that. Coach, when the teaches like this, coach, that's why we're different human beings. Wired differently, to deliver differently, with different kind of potentials. And that's why you kill your children, because you expect them to be in a mood. Instead of looking at who they are and then saying, how do we reframe you to become a better version of you and not be another person? Not be another person. But we want to actually compare. We keep comparing. That comparison has actually eaten us up. We compare everything. Compare everything. You compare a fish and an elephant. You compare a monkey who can climb a tree and a tiger. That's what you do. That's what you do. Stop the comparison. You can never have the two of them. I have a set of twins. You know, my husband and I realized that our son is a way different kind of person. When you see the both of them, you see it clearly. When we go to school in primary school, they say, you're just everywhere. Hey, I don't like how I like it. If I can say, stop it. This fraction of the minute, please. Stop it. What is all this? I like if she's calm. He's everywhere. Please allow my son to be everywhere. We are trying to learn the focus from there. Don't compare. See, the Bible says that it's foolishness. He said those that compare one to another is foolish. Foolish. So you don't dare compare my children. You know you don't. Our son had a temperament of fire wiring that we are, building on. Our daughter maybe her own fire wiring is very small compared to. What am I comparing exactly? You keep comparing because you do not have. See, anytime I see people compare, it's a function of lack of knowledge. That's what makes you compare. It's a function of lack of knowledge. Even I gave birth to this my child, before one, they started walking. This my child is so slow. What's that? Who are these children? What is the career? Possible career. Now, this is not limited to anything, like I often say. Most CEOs, because they love being in control and making bold decisions, most CEOs are fire-wired children. Go on. Most industry leaders, when you read it, you will see that they are fire-wired. They're fire-wired. They're the ones that are bold enough to take risks. They're the ones. So you see that. You cannot just leave your child and say, this is what it is that my child is, or you cannot bring down the threats of your child. What you need to do is to help your child refine it. See, you are a refiner of the process of your child. You are the thief. You know that when you bring pap, you see that pap has all those, rough edges. You pass the pap through a sieve. The tinier the sieve, the smoother the pap. The more porous the sieve, the rougher the pap. What do you think happens? You are the sieve. How you refine you is how your child gets refined eventually. If that your holes, if you have big holes, when your children pass through you, they pass with all the negatives. You can't refine them. But when you are like a cloth, you don't have a lot of holes. When your children pass through you, they bring out finest of themselves. You are a refiner. That's who you are. That's who you are. So until you refine you, you can't even refine your children. So what I want you to do is to identify who you are here. Identify who you are here. So when you do, you are able to now refine you. Don't go and say, tell me how to hire person. I don't like talking. Let me just be there. No, you can refine you and begin to actually use what it is, how it is that God wants you. That's why I say spirit controlled. Spirit controlled. So now, these people are the ones who are judges, they thrive in debate, justice, arguing for a cause, political leaders, activists, passionate about reform, passionate about influence change, military, because they have a strong sense of discipline. Yup. A strong sense of discipline and a strong sense of leadership. They do. Research, they enjoy proving and thinking critically. That's who they are. Because they are fire wired. They are able to actually bring that fire in that place. Right? Some children are, all these children are stubborn. They are not stubborn, they are determined. Your children are not restless, they are adventurous. Stop mislabeling greatness. I say that again. Your children are not stubborn, they are determined. Your children are not restless, they are adventurous. Stop mislabeling greatness. A strong child is not rebellious. No, they are just waiting for a mission worth their fight. Paul didn't obey blindly. He transformed the world. A restless child is not a troublemaker. They're a world changer in motion. This is something that you must actually put in place. Let's go to the next child. The wind-wired child. Why are they wind-wired? Energetic, adventurous, and that's a call for our son. Energetic, adventurous. I call them the creative child, the imagination weaver, aka the dreamer, the innovator, the visionary. But before this child even lands, you kill them. Our son is a more of a creative child than he sits on any other part of it. I'll tell you why our daughter sits. This is the child that can. Do you remember the story of Simon Peter? Peter was bold, always first to act, full of energy. Peter was the only one who jumped out of the boat and said, Master, I want to actually be on the water with you. Peter was the one who just jumped out and cut off the ear of a soldier. Adventure. Sometimes his adventure will lead him into trouble. Yeah. That's why he denied Jesus too. They are so adventurous. They are curious. They are hands-on learners. They are spontaneous. They can be impulsive. That's the challenge with raising them. They can be inattentive. They struggle with structure. Our son can be very impulsive. And by the time we started with him, that was part of that's why when I tell you that we've been teaching our son time management for 14 years. So when you hear that he was the timekeeper and the only junior prefect in his school, it was not an error. It was not an error. It was a thing that was cool, because we know that the child who is creative have a problem with structure, have a problem with impulsivity. So we're not assuming. We're not just labeling and saying, that's the way they are, they are not really this kind of child. Because they are the ones, they are the most disorganized. They are easily distracted. They struggle with routine. They struggle with routine. They are doing this one. You very know they are going to another thing. They are the ones, because they are creative. They are the ones that will open your remote, scatter everything, dump it, and try to fix it back. They are the ones. Because they are very imaginative. They want to know what is everything, right? They want to know what everything is inside. They want to know everything. So when you teach your child who is creative, structure. Now our son, when you enter his room, he's very organized. My sister was around and she said, your son's room is so organized. I laughed. I said, you don't know how long we have been on this journey. What are you talking about? Meanwhile, his sister came as another kind of child. Organization is not a big deal for. We started learning executive functioning skills because of our son very early as 2, 3. Because we understood that this would be a struggle for him. So what did we do? Can we start teaching this thing earlier? If you understand who you're raising, you would understand that, okay, these are the struggles and this is what it is, where it is. Can start from. Our son gets any gadget, opens it up, and boom, boom, sets it up. So somebody gave me a pad, a notepad that is electronic. You write on it and all of that. So he used 2 seconds to fix it. Now, it's interesting that, so I got this Kindle pad, one of the cohorts, get me this Kindle pad. And I've been looking at it every day. I carry it. I've been trying to set it up. Every day I'm carrying it. I just looked at it the other day and I laughed. If Ayo was here, this would have been set up the same minute. My husband bought a car some time ago and he was trying to figure out how do you connect the phone, and it was, new technology and all of that. In split seconds, I just said, Daddy, don't worry, hold on. Everything done. I'm like, wow. Now, this is a strength. They're inventive. They think without a box. They dream. They are innovative. They are just, they're just everywhere. And can also miss it. They can also miss it because they are impulsive. So you begin to teach. So when parents come to me and say, hey, Coach, I said that's in December. My routine, my son is not following. I usually used to laugh and be on the floor when you guys are reading those chats. Like, is that a joke? We've done this thing for 15 years. And our sons still struggle with some of these things. And sometimes I'm like, oh, Mom. So sorry about that. I can see that I was logged out, but I'm back now. Sorry, can you see me? Can you hear me? I don't know what happened to my network. Just went boom, boom, boom. Don't want me to talk about it, but I'm here. I'm going to talk about it. What are you talking about? Okay, so let's talk about the Peter. So some of us are the Peters, all right? Some of us are like Peter. Some of our children are like Peter, right? Very impulsive, but yet Peter was very instrumental to building the church. So how do you help? How do you parent these children? Give them space to explore ideas without too much restriction. Create a garage. These are the children that need the garage the most. Get a space where these children can get in and do stuff, and let there be a space where they can do that. Teach them time management. Remember that I've been screaming time management and how to follow through on that. You've heard me say before, that we usually say to our son, we finish what we usually say in our house, we finish what we start. It was our son that was the problem now. Our daughter didn't have a problem finishing what she started. Our son want to do, he gets bored easily. Ah, no, I'm bored, I don't want to do this again. Now you will sit down and you will do it. So you don't kill the strength of this child. What you do is that you build on those weaknesses while culturing that strength. While culturing that strength. So this is, this is very, very, very important. So let's talk about the possible careers that you see these people, because they are everywhere. They are very athletic. They can do sports because they have high energy. They love physical activity. Our son is the one that likes to swim, like to play football, they like things that push them. Firefighters, pilots, because of adventure. They like to explore. Travel blogger. They're also good entrepreneurs because they are high risk takers. Because they are high risk takers. They are great at starting things. They don't know how to finish things. The finisher's anointing is not on you. So that's why sometimes I look at some yadas. You start high spirited. They don't know how to get to the end. Because you are actually that winged kind of child, but nobody really helped you to now be able to, get the finisher's anointing. That's one thing that, we are constantly giving our son. We're constantly saying, you need the finisher's anointing. We say, yes, yes, yes. Let's sit down and finish it. So a restless child is not a troublemaker. They are a world changer in motion. Peter's impulsive energy turned him into a fearless leader. So use your own. Okay. Sorry about that. I don't know. That's fun. Just give me. Let me just be sure that I have. All right. Okay, I think we're good. So sorry about that. I just noticed I'm switching between all the networks, all the router in the office, and just picking up. All right, so they are high risk people, so they don't know how to finish things. They know how to. So these are children that you actually begin to teach those parts of their life. Now you have the mind wired child, aka the systematic child. That's my daughter. That's my daughter. Systematic. So if you have a sister, remember we had a set of twins, right? We had a set of twins. Our daughter was systematic. Our daughter knew how to organize her things from day one. Our daughter would wake up in the morning, her socks ironed, her pants ironed, her clothes ironed. If you see Ife's white shirt in SS1, she has not changed it. She's been wearing it since SS1. It's as white, squeaky white as the people who just joined school in SS1. She tell me, I saw her, I was like, Ife Oluwa, senior Ife. She said, Mommy, I don't please. You won't see Ife ruffled, dirty, disorganized, never. So now you see, I have that child, and then yes, daughter I unpant. She has a father who irons boxers. I'm sure my husband will collapse. My husband irons his boxers. Very weird, right? Yes, I'm married to a weird person. That's another conversation for another day. So she will iron her socks, iron her pant, iron her singlet, her uniform on her bed before she sleeps. Even me, I'm not. It's not my call. Before Ife sleeps. Never cut on fresh, my dear daughter. Never ever. Always hair packed, neat. You can't see her scattered everywhere. Then you now have a son. That's the extreme. Our son is the extreme opposite of our daughter. And then you now want to start to actually now begin to compare. The systematic child is the logical one. The systematic child is the planner. Our daughter is the one that you don't need to stay, follow rules, read instruments, and all of that. Our daughter, before we travel anywhere, she is the first person that starts the research. And I on our joins. The one that said, these are the rules in this country. You don't do this. You don't do that. You don't do all of that. You don't do all of that. Very logical, very planner, thinks about things, love structure, thrives on routines, the value organization. Their strengths, they are detail oriented, they are responsible, they are disciplined. See, I remember one time someone who was close to me was comparing our daughter to her children. I said, can't you see Ife? Why are you people not like Ife? I said, don't ever do that. Even me, I cannot compare Ayo with Ife. As in, I cannot. Never. Detail-oriented, disciplined. Raising systematic children are easy. Unfortunately, there are parts of them, right? It feels easy, right? So to say. But unfortunately, there are parts of them you ignore because you think it's easy. You ignore the things that are very important because you think that they don't really have a problem. At the time, we actually faced that problem. So we just felt she had it all figured out. And some things were missed. Oh, we paid the price. And we're able to now, because we're intentional, we're able to now say, okay, there's something we've missed here. We now realize that because we were, focused on the person who we think had the problem in both. And then we now left the person who we think got it all figured out. And in the middle of it, we had a shakiness that my husband and I had to sit back and say, we're going to miss this thing. Let's sit back and revert again. There is a tendency to not train the mind-wired child well. What are the struggles of these people? They struggle with change. They can be very rigid and they don't like surprises. So they can't try things out. Very rigid, very, everything is just straight to the point, straight to the point, straight to the point. Straight to the point. And, when you change school, when our daughter is going to go to a new school, we're like, how is she going to cope? My daughter hates change. As in they just don't like change. It's not even a good thing. It's not a good thing. They can be so rigid. Things have to be done in that way. If not, it's not common. They don't like surprises. I have a part of me that is very systematic. So raising me was not difficult, yet there were a lot of things that were missed. For this kind of children, you would need to give them schedules and clear expectations. You need to help them embrace flexibility and help them to understand problem solving. You need to encourage them to see mistakes as learning opportunities. I had to learn that mistakes are actually learning opportunities. I had to learn it. So you just think that, everything is okay. And the tendency to have a problem with this child at the end of the day is so high. So please watch it. Watch it. So because they don't like a lot of change, you would think that all is well with them. A child who struggles with change is actually struggling. A child who is rigid, right, is actually struggling. So that means they can't manage life challenges when they come. A child who doesn't like surprises, this guy, they don't like it. Is a problem. So I call them the logical one, the planner, the rule follower. This kind of children can also mislead you. They are the kind of children that you're like, my children don't have a problem. Nothing is wrong with them. They are very obedient. They are everything. They are rule followers. They are rule followers because they are structure oriented. You can miss it with them. You can miss it with them. Please be careful if you have a systematic child. I had one and we almost missed it if we were not intentional about it. That's why Solomon, they are deep thinkers. We call our daughter Solomon. Like she's so in the Solomon place. So you must be able to know what are these, people. Who are these people? What they actually love, solving challenges. They are very deeply analytical. They ask profound questions. When you're in conversation with our daughter, she says some things, you're like, okay. They prefer logic and facts over emotions. Another is not, they can see patterns, they can predict outcomes, they can think long term, they understand it. You understand it? So, somebody says, is it possible to be wind and mind wired? Yes, it is. It is. What are the possible careers? Engineering, architectural, because they are logical, they enjoy design. Our daughter enjoy design. So, by the way, she says she wants to study architecture. She's the best TD student in their class, in their school today. She loves fine details. She loves fine details. They love analysis. They love numbers, patterns, critical thinking, philosopher, doctors, surgeons. Most surgeons are mind wired because they actually enjoy being able to pay attention to details. They love excellence at problem solving. They're strategic economists. They think ahead. They predict trends. That's what they love. That's what they love. So that's something that you need to pay attention to. And then we have the last one. Now let me say this: a deep thinking child is not too quiet. Don't say you're too quiet. Just build their other parts. Just build their other parts. Stop labeling the children. Get them because we understand our daughter, can be like that. We started to push. Okay, so you need to actually do this. You need to, do that. For instance, if you are in a space, somebody like our son, you don't need to teach him public speaking. He will speak anywhere, anytime. So somebody who is a mind-wired person, you need to actually be able to, get them to push out that they speak a lot of wisdom, but you need to actually help them to be able to embrace change that is not within the confines of what they want. And then the last one, which is the star-wired child. Social, people-oriented, the Barnabas of our time. The star-wired. Corporates. They thrive on relationships. They seek social connections. That your child, that your daughter that's everywhere. And she likes people. She like the thing is paining you. Why are you just everywhere? Your mother is quiet. Your mother does not like friends. You are killing the child. The child's strength is they're expressive, they're adaptable. Our son has a star-wired part of him. Our son gets into a place, he knows everybody, teachers, he knows all this, everybody knows him. This one. You get into it, it's like a life of the party. You can get like that. Challenges. My dad is very, very star-wired. Very, very star-wired. My father thrives on social connection. So now you see that the star-wired child will not have a problem with social connections. You don't have the social connections. But if you have a child who is probably wind-wired, they might have a problem with social connections. So that means you need to pay more attention. If you actually understand your child, star-wired, leave me alone. If you actually understand the child, you will be able to help them. Now remember, the star-wired child has a problem also. His challenges is that he doesn't understand boundaries. The star-wired child is overly influenced. They have peer pressure issue. So it's the star-wired child that you are supposed to be helping from day one. So you know that social skill is not the problem of the star-wired child. Overdoing it is the problem of the star-wired child. So you need to begin to now help them, to guide them to set healthy boundaries. They're the ones that go everywhere and don't laugh without, hey, everybody, their friend. They are not discerning. The star-wired child is not discerning. Very undiscerning set of human beings. Your child makes friends easily. They are easily talking about their classmates. They struggle to set boundaries. They feel hot when you leave them out. They feel hot when you leave them out. So instead of just warning them about bad influences, they are the children like, you stop following bad people. So that's not the issue. That's not the issue. What you need to teach them is to just, you tell them it's great to be kind, but you don't have to be friends with everyone. How do you tell someone is a real friend? You see friendship as a skill. It is this set of children that need it. Teach them social discernment. Teach them social discernment so that they don't rely too much on external validation. The star-wired child is all about external validation. They love the validation of the people. If you do not groom them, they will be all about the people. They are naturally friendly. They are outgoing. They thrive in social settings. When you see them in social settings, you're wondering, is it the same person? Yep. They can easily influence others, but they need a lot of external validation. Is the problem. They are excellent at bringing people together, creating harmony. They love to, they're the ones that, you can see the star-wired child, they're in 10 clicks all together. All together. How do you parent them? Make them confident. Most of the star-wired children battle with validation that they don't know they battle with. Because they've left them, they're just everywhere. So they look like they are distracted. The truth is, a child who loves people is not just about their distraction. They can be a bridge to destiny. But that's if you actually help them to connect, leaders like Paul and Mark, like Barnabas did. So it's your job to train. It's your job to train. So are you training that child with that wiring? It's your job to actually look at that child and say, okay, this is how you're wired, and I'm going to help you to build on it. So instead of saying, don't have friends, you cannot be a friend with everybody, stop talking to people, you are changing the wire, the hard wire of that child. You're changing the hard wire. So what you need to do is, okay, it's good that you love social connections, but you must not seek validation out there. This is how we're going to build it. It is great that this is happening to you. When you are in this place, you must discern how to find the right friends, because the systematic child will not jump into friendship anyhow. Our daughter is so systematic that her first year in secondary school, she did an interview for the girl she wanted to be her friend. When she was done with the interview, she was like, okay, I'll talk to you later. Interview, Bawo. The day she told me, I was like, you can be a lot, Sha. Even me, I've never thought of it. That's because a systematic child wants to be able to do, and all of that. Because our son understands that he can be a social butterfly, but he understands discernment. By the time he was back, he said, Mommy, yeah, I talk to everybody, but I don't really have a friend yet. I can't really see. Discernment. Discernment. They don't have it. So we started very early. I started telling our son to. So when people are around, we noticed it when our son was as young as 1. When people are around, our son will forget where he is. He will not be everywhere. He will not be calling out, Ayo is lost. I will say, this guy has a star-wired part of him that we need to now grow. Is it still a life of a party? Yes, our son is every time, any day, a life of a party. But yet, very discerning. He won't just run into anywhere. He won't just, are we to the end? No. He's still in the process. So we're still training. We're still training. We're still training. So that's your job. It is your job to continually to look at the lacking of the child. So one child is not going to have one, type of wire. The child is probably going to have, our son is more creative than he will be star-wired. However, he still has a star wire of him that is actually really, bigger than what it is that our daughter will have. Our daughter is not very people's person, kind of. He doesn't jump into any space and just be there. She likes her space, and be like some of us who just like our corner in some place. But we now need to begin to develop. and now build that child to now become spirit controlled, like we say. So encourage them to use their gift of connection for upliftment. You encourage them to use their gift of connection for upliftment. So they're not just gathering people, just, the Star Wire child wants to gather people, wants to, but just, no. So stop trying to change your child's wiring. I need you to try to decode their greatness. Let me say that again. Stop trying to change your child's wiring. Start decoding their greatness. Start decoding it. What are the possible careers for these children? They can influence. They are good, great influencers. Public speaking, because they are engaging personality, they enjoy connecting with people. Salesperson, marketer, they are excellent at persuasion in building relationships. Now, if you know that you are mind wired, you have a child who is not excellent. Our daughter, does not have that spark, but we've been building sales, the ability to sell and marketing skills in our daughter from day one, because we know that it is an area of her life that could be a struggle in the future. So we're not just saying, it's not a call for her. What do you do in life that is not actually a call, right? That, in all of these areas. So you start to build it. These people do very well as counselors, as HR specialists, because they help people feel understood, feel valued. They love event planning. I was listening to Funke Buck now. I was talking to her on the phone, and she said that, she's a yard. I'm sure she's not here. She's going to listen to this later. And she said, something about when she was in school, in secondary school, that she was that person, life of a party, who would bring people together, who will, do everything, she was lively, and all of that. Today, she runs one of the biggest event, system in Nigeria. If not the biggest. I don't live there. She's a celebrity event planner. Media personality, because they strive on social and high energy environment. That's where they thrive. They can, politics. They can do a lot. They can. Joy is naming Queen Esther. And that's true. They can. So you need to now teach them. How do you can't just be everywhere. You can't just be found everywhere. You can't just be, and all of that. Points to note. Samson was a deliverer. Samuel was to be a prophet and a kingmaker. Jeremiah was a prophet to nations. John the Baptist was a forerunner to Jesus. Peter was an apostle to the Jews, while Paul was an apostle to the Gentiles. Your child has a purpose. Your job is to discover that purpose and help him or her to acknowledge and pursue it. If you kill a part of the wiring of your child, the purpose of that child might actually crash at the end of the day. That's the problem. So it's your job to sit down. If your children are young, be grateful. That's why I keep saying, if you get to go into the inner circle, you have your children below 5, be very grateful. It means that you are able to look at these weaknesses and you are able to actually bring it out. See, every child comes as a Messiah. The problem is, are you going to be able to see the Messiahness of that child? Do you know that Jesus Christ, it was his mother who discovered, who brought him to the limelight of his Messiahness? That first miracle was the limelight. Jesus said, no, it's not time. The mother said, this is the time. You are a Messiah. That's how Jesus turned water into wine. See, parents, you do not know how much that you actually have to do for your child. You are a co-creator with God. So you begin to see what can be a hindrance for my child because of who they are today. How can I help them be able to fulfill destiny better? The Bible says that saviors shall arise from Zion. Will your child be one of the saviors who will arise to actually help to be able to change the tide of things? Every child is born with a potential. It is not true that some people are born to be great. It is not true. Every child is born a Genesis, parenting that did Genesis them. Your child's personality is not a mistake. It's the prophecy that's waiting to unfold. Your child's personality is not a mistake. It's a prophecy that is waiting to unfold. That's what it is. And that's why when I hear parents say, oh, yes, I know that my child is a kinetic and is auditory learner. Oh, so he cannot. If we had left our son to just be an auditory learner without understanding how visuals work, how will he become a star? If you want to raise a star, then you would need to look at their weaknesses and begin to help them to stardom. It is your job. It is your job. Are you able to see the Messiah in your child? Or you just want to just Mary, the mother of Jesus, saw the Messiahness in Jesus and knew that it was time to launch it. Do you know whether it's time to launch? You don't even know who your child is. You're still there fighting your child. Then, what is it? You're just everywhere. You don't even know who your child. Imagine that Mary told Jesus, why are you in the temple teaching people? You're just everywhere. You just want every bazaar queen. You don't want everybody to see you. Do you think Jesus would have succeeded? Oh no, Jesus won't have. It's because Mary saw the Messiahness of Jesus. How did Mary know that this one can turn water into, can do something in a place where wine has finished? How did she know? Your child is doing something. What you actually put up is to discourage, is to abuse. Do you know that I always say, if they come to you now and say your child is the next president of Nigeria, God comes to you and says it to you, and you are sure, do you know that how you parent that child will change? Do you know? As in, God comes to you today and says, I have seen your child, this your child, Esther. Esther is going to become the president of the nation. It is standard. They bring in people to start grooming. Do you know that the way you treat that child will change? So why is it that you think that your child will not have that potential to become that person? See, until you actually see your children in that way, you actually see them in that way, you will parent them like just anybody. The child is not anybody. If the president of America says, oh, my child is stubborn, I want you to help me raise this child, do you know you won't hit that child? Do you know you attend all the classes to find out about that child? And they say, this is how you just help me raise a child to become a very rooted person. You will do everything in your life. I'm talking about Donald Trump's son, to ensure that Donald Trump's son comes out to be the best human being on earth. Why can't you do the same for your child? Why are we begging you to attend class? Why are we begging you to make something out of your child? Why are we begging you to send your child to a place where their potential will come out? I say, your child should be in camp. You say, no, all these things that are saying, hey, I don't know. If you were giving the child of the president today, if we come out and say, this is the class that you need to actually be able to say, hey, let me attend, though, you know that the president's child is in my house. That's it. You look at your children as a nobody. That's why you raise them as a nobody. The moment you begin to see beyond just having children, you begin to see God. You begin to see saviors. I am sure that that's the way Mary saw Jesus. You think that Jesus just became because he's a Messiah? No. Mary saw Jesus as a Messiah. Have you really seen your child as a Messiah? That's the real problem. You can't see your child as a savior. No, you can't. In your mind, you're just saying, it's not let me just pass it down. Get the job. And that's the only thing you think about. You think about. Go back and ask yourself, have I been able to see my children as God, as saviors, as the Messiah? If you do, you'll be shouting. I'm saying, you idiot, you want to frustrate me, or you want to kill me, or you won't say that to Donald Trump's son if he was given to you too. No, you won't. You will go above and beyond to actually see that things are done differently. So why do we have to beg you? Why do we have to tell you what it is? Why do we have to start saying, no, attend this class, so come and understand how your child learns? Why is somebody begging you to understand how your child learns? How? Why? It's because you haven't seen your child in that manner. Do you know that when Moses was given birth to, there was no prophecy on the head of Moses? It was the mother of Moses who said, this child is the goodly child. He said, she said herself, I can see. Who can you see? If what you're seeing is that teacher is too stubborn, hey, you will not kill me. This parenting is killing me. Hey, the coach said we should attend another class. So, hey, oh, we're reading another book. Oh, understanding child learning style again. No, it's because you don't know who you're raising. Because Jochebed saw a goodly child, she took all the risk on earth to save him. All. She could have lost her life. But she was ready to lose her life. The point is that you're ready to lose it all. And when I mean lose it all, it's not I want to sacrifice everything, my children are my all. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the real thing you should do. The real thing you should do. This woman was able to see a child who was born on day one. They say, oh, it's tabula rasa. The woman said, no, I see a blueprint. I see a blueprint of a goodly child. That's what I can see. And eventually, Moses saved the world. There was nowhere in the scripture where he said that Moses was going to actually come and save. No, it was a blanket prophecy that woman keyed into. The Bible says, save your child, rise. You know, he says, it's my child, Steph. I don't even know. You use self-fulfilling prophecy. Use your mouth and kill your child. Kill your child. And that's it. You must learn to parent the child you have. Not the one you wish to have. Not the one you pray to have. Not the one you claim to have. No matter the child you have, you can parent them and find their potential. Let me say this again. Yada, learn to parent the child you have. Not the one you wish to have. Not the one you are praying to have. Not the one you claim to have. Not the one you covet to have. Not the one you see the testimony of another person. You say, I wish this is my child. Not the one you are wishing. Stop wishing. Stop wishing, Yadas. Go back and look at that child and say to yourself, this one is a goodly child. And I'm going to find the blueprint of this one, and he will become a savior in our world. That's it. Stop telling me. Some people come to me and say, no, coach, your children are not like my children. My children are very stubborn. You are lucky. What does that mean? I don't want to hear any Yada say any of sorts ever again. Your child was given to you for a purpose. Not for you to sit down and compare who is on whatever journey. Children, I see children who write books, who do excellently well in other areas. That's not who my children are. I am not in any way. I don't even feel flattered. Parent the child you have, not the one you wish to have, not the one you pray to have, not the one you claim to have, not even the one you confess to have. Not the one you confess to have. All this confession. I confess that my child is this one. My child is a goodly child. My child is that. He's the one you have. Who is that child? How do I begin to help this child to become? It is from there. It is from there. Stop looking for what is not lost. God made your child with everything, the potential that I needed. When you see and study what it is, then you begin to help your child in the different areas of their lives. That's who you are. That's what you're called to do. You're not called to just sit down and just analyze. If the analysis is too much, stop analyzing the others. Stop it. Stop analyzing. Begin to do things the way they should be done. Begin to look at your child and say, this one is the one that has been given to me. What is expected expected of me in co-creation? What is expected of me? What is expected of me? Don't just sit down and give excuses. Don't just sit down and say, because, I started yesterday. Hey, coach, you've been doing this for 15 years. Those are excuses. Excuses are cheap. Those that make them are not wise. It is not wisdom to make excuses. It is not wisdom to make excuses. Please stop excuses. Go back today and ask yourself, this child that I have, what have I done to the one that have been given to me? What have I done? I'm almost in tears sharing this with you because I see the way that we actually look at our children and the children that God has given us potential for. We downthrow them. We relegate them just because we do not know who they are. Just because we want to just prove something to the world. Each child is uniquely wired. The Bible gives us examples of real people who walked similar paths. When you understand your child's wiring, you parent with wisdom. You parent with direction. Stop getting frustrated. Stop getting frustrated. Stop giving excuses. Stop asking, this webinar, they've come again. This one, they've come again. God has given you a responsibility and you're sitting down to ask questions. Are you guys not afraid? Sometimes I look at some things, I'm like, you guys have mind. You are giving such huge responsibility that should get you jittered every morning. You're asking questions. You're explaining away. You're asking, they told us to buy a book now for our children. How many books are we going to buy? Hey, you're explaining away. And yet you've been giving someone who can change their world. You've been giving someone who can turn around things. You can't see it. You're more interested in trying to prove a point. You're more interested in trying to feed your ego. You're more interested in trying to argue things that don't make sense. Just because we just do not understand what we are called to do. Remember, parenting is a calling. Parenting is a calling. If you don't get it, you will destroy destinies. Most of us are struggling today just because our own parents didn't understand that this is a calling. This is a calling. Our own parents thought that this was just, wake up, do the things that you need to do, and all of that. And that's why we're here all struggling, do not know who we are. Parenting is a calling. We are called to actually raise a Messiah. That's your job. That's your job. How can you guide a child you don't understand? How can you parent someone you don't know? You don't force a fish to climb a tree or an eagle to swim. You have to raise your child according to their natural wiring. Stop trying to parent them just with everybody. This is a very important thing for us to note. Please, destinies are involved. If you didn't want this, you shouldn't have had children. You could have just gone on your, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's a choice you could have made. But if you made a choice to have children, then you must stand up and do what is required of you. You must stand up and do what is required of you. That's a job you chose. That's a choice you made. Today, I want you to go home and go and look at that child and ask yourself, who exactly am I parenting? Who exactly am I parenting? And how do I begin to help this child? If somebody needs to beg you to attend the class, beg you to read a book that will benefit your child, then you don't know who you're parenting. Then you don't know that you have destinies in your hand. Then you don't know that the success of your children are in your hands. No, you don't. You don't. My husband and I have had to stay sleepless nights, days and days again, just to be able to understand what our role should be in certain circumstances. Sometimes we're reading, sometimes we're doing, sometimes we're here giving excuses. God has not sent us help. He said, oh, God, help me parent my children. There is no help God is going to help you. God doesn't parent children. God does not. Go and ask David. Go and ask Eli. Go and ask them. God does not parent children. He doesn't. Even his own only son, he didn't parent him. Jesus Christ was parented by Mary and Joseph. Go and do your job. Go and do your job. Stop waiting for God. If you are here, if you're here, God has called you to hear these things today. And because you have heard it, I keep telling you that you will be judged by the things you heard. Yeah, both of us will be judged by the things we have heard. The things we heard and we didn't do, we'll be judged by it. So you can't say you don't know. You can't say you didn't hear. You heard it. So go back and pick up your bed and walk. See, no matter how much sentiment you give, no matter how much story you tell, like the man by the pool of Bethesda, and say, oh, I don't know, God does not understand. Hey, I work 9 to 5. Hey, I work 20 hours. Hey, my children, hey, God will not listen to those things. He will not. He won't. Find a way. Because on that day, you will stand and you will answer. These destinies I have in your hand. How did it go? This is where we end. And I believe that this will give you enough, food for thought for us to go and sit down with who we are parenting so we can really understand what it is that we will need to do. If you have finished listening to this class and you're not able to sit and be able to actually, if you're ruffled in a class, you should be grateful, very grateful. There's some things I wish, I wish I heard many years ago. So be grateful for it. Thank you very much, Yadas. Thank you so much for being here. See you all in the yard. And I hope that this has been enough food for thought for every single one of us to go back and do our parenting differently. Stop waiting to be chased. If anybody's chasing you to read a book, anybody's chasing you to attend the course, anybody's chasing you to then there's an error in it. Your heart should be burning. You are the one that should be chasing and asking questions. When is this happening? When your heart should be burning. You should be running. Nobody should be chasing you. It's an error, an absolute error. Thank you so much, others. See you in the